Okay, well, welcome everybody. You are here for our Knowledge Bites session. Nonprofit finance is setting yourself up for success. So this webinar is hosted by the Southern Vermont Economy Project. The Southern Vermont Economy Project is hosted by Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, and we provide training and technical assistance to increase local capacity, skills, and resources in the Southern Vermont Economic Development Zone. So that includes the Windham region, as well as all of Bennington County. The Windham region includes a couple of Bennington County towns and the town of Weston. Our project is funded in part through the USDA Rural Community Development Initiative. So we run public events and trainings, including quarterly Knowledge Bite series, as well as other in-person events in the annual Southern Vermont Economy Summit. It's just here to help you get skills and training you need to do the things that great things you do for our community. So today, this is sort of by popular demand, we get a lot of questions about nonprofit finances. We've been doing a series of board development workshops, and it's something that all boards kind of wish they were better at or want to get better at. So this is where our idea for this came from. And also I happened to meet Sheila Evans at an event, and she's got so much knowledge and things to say. So we're providing her knowledge, and also Melanie Lopez's knowledge as a resource. So today, our presenters are Sheila Evans, who's a manager with Your Part-Time Controller. She can talk about their resources and kind of that big picture of what nonprofits need for their finances. And then we also brought in Melanie Lopez, who is a bookkeeper based in Wilmington, who helps small business clients as well as a couple of nonprofit clients. So she's really got that kind of boots on the ground understanding. So what we're going to do today, what we're going to start with, let me stop my screen share. And we just wanted to put up a little poll really quickly to get a sense of what people, where they're coming from and what they hope to learn today. So I'm going to launch the poll. And then we'll just give it one more minute. A couple more people are dropping in. Okay, we're going to launch this really quick poll. And just answer really the first question and are you guys seeing that now? Just making sure, are you seeing the poll? Okay, great. So answer the question, sort of here's some things that maybe what brought you here today, what you might be looking for help with, and other is fine. And then any other specific things, feel free to type in anything else for our presenters.
Meg, will you read the options? Because I don't think this will show up on the recording.
Okay, so the options are, if you're looking for help with board reporting, creating budgets, federal grant compliance or management, cash management, fundraising, donor management, or other, which is, I don't know what I don't know, and other questions. If there's specific things you want covered, let us know. All right, so okay, a little over half have participated. We'll just give it another minute or another few seconds, I should say, because a minute is a long time. Okay, anyone else? Okay.
So it looks like it's taking a little longer to answer the second question, which makes sense. But so far, the first question, most of you are here for fundraising / donor management, followed closely by, I don't know what I don't know.
Well, also board reporting is another 8 people said.
Gotta scroll
board
up.
reporting.
Yes, and board reporting.
So about half of people said board reporting. 60% have said fundraising. All right, I'm going to end the poll. And we'll see. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can, I'm going to share the results. Are you guys seeing that now? And looking at the Okay, so other things, let's see, great opportunities for 501c4 versus, grant opportunities, 501c4 versus 501c3 organizations, something interesting. And another person had said, understanding how to do the taxes for a nonprofit Friends of the Library. So thinking about taxes and reporting. And an organization is moving from an LLC to a nonprofit next week. Not completely sure, but we don't know yet. Totally valid. So hopefully that is helpful. Does that provide some context for our presenters?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okie dokes. All right. Well, Sheila, what I'm going to do first, so we're going to have Sheila do a presentation, and then we'll have Melanie jump in, and then we'll open it up for some questions at the end. So Sheila, why don't you go ahead and you can share your presentation and just take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. Thanks all for being here today. Great topic. Love the enthusiasm. Just the number of people on the screen is great news. I'm going to share my screen here. Just give me a second. Like Meg says, we got to figure out it's the right screen, right place at the right time, right? So I'm going to share that. Everyone should be seeing your part-time controller and a bunch of numbers and letters. And that good? All right, great. So this topic is huge, absolutely huge. Nonprofit finances. I could go on and on for days and days, and they gave me 20 minutes. So I've got to be quick and to the point. So I think the biggest takeaway here is everything I say today is probably just going to give you more questions rather than answers, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. That is what we hope. And the goal here is to say, well, where do I get those answers? Where can I find the resources to help me with some of the questions I have? So I'm not promising to answer your questions today specifically, but I am hoping that we give you at least a couple of areas to look for resources that might be able to help you. So let me start just quickly by saying I am Sheila Evans. I am a manager with Your Part-Time Controller. Your Part-Time Controller is a national accounting service firm. We have been in business for over 30 years. We have 750 and counting accountants. And that's a great feat these days, because I think we all know it's hard to find those finance folks. And as an adjunct professor here in the state, I'm very familiar with the shortage of our students taking accounting as their profession. So we're all feeling that pinch, and how do we handle the finances? And so today I'm here to share maybe some ideas for how you might approach that. I am a native Vermonter, lived in Vermont my whole life, except for running off to Philadelphia to go to college, but quickly running back to the Green Mountains. I worked at Gallagher Flynn and Company. Many folks have heard of the CPA firm in Burlington. That's where I started my career out of college in audit. From there, I went into manufacturing here in the state, and then quickly went into more of the governmental and not-for-profit sector. So I worked with the Vermont State College System, which I think most of you have definitely aware of here in Vermont, and worked 15 years in higher education. And that's where I really gained my passion for working on mission purpose organizations and working with government and non-for-profits. And I found Your Part-Time Controller 2 years ago, and it really was a dream for me, because I get to do what I do like to do, 30 years accounting, 30 years, I can't believe it. But I get to do it with folks like you, those nonprofit organizations that are, front-facing, mission-focused, and really making change in the world. And one of the things that makes Your Part-Time Controller, which I will often refer to as YPTC, it just flows easy. YPTC, what's unique is we focus only on non-for-profits. So that is our expertise, that is our niche. A lot of expertise around non-for-profits and helping them with that finances. And one of the mantras that we have that I love is we help executive directors and boards sleep at night. And what does that mean for you? It means you can focus on the front-facing, mission critical, programmatic, important work that you do, And we focus on that back office behind the scenes, like how do we help you manage the money that flows in and out of your organizations strategically and within compliance of all the regulatory federal, state, you know, what have it be that you need to address, and how do you get boards the financial data and reports that they need so that you can make strategic decisions and you can make sure that you are using your limited resources in the best way possible. So that's why I love what I do. I work with so many different non-for-profits. So every day I know, even though I'm not on that front line, I can make a difference too. And so what does that look like for you? I want to start my presentation just quickly going through a slide deck that talks about, you know, what is outsourcing and how is that potentially a viable option, especially for small non-for-profits. So let's look at a few slides there and just talk about what does that look like? What are the resources? First of all, what are some of those things? We did the poll, we got some of your responses, but what are some of the things that maybe those that said, I don't know what I don't know, what is out there for services that can help address maybe some of the things either you don't have staff for currently or you don't have enough staff to address? I'll just go over these really quickly, and then at the end of the presentation, we're going to talk a little bit more about these. Accounting, financial reporting, analysis, data visualization, forecasting, board meeting attendance, training, policy and procedure work, scenario planning, budgeting, grant proposals. This is a big one. Grant proposals and grant management. We see a lot of this need in non-for-profits because those are the areas where a lot of dollars come in, and a lot of dollars, those dollars are heavily regulated. So there's a lot of work to be done there and a lot of attention that we find non-for-profits need in that area. And then also audit support. If you find yourself in a situation where you do have some sort of compliance or regulatory environment or agency that you need to report to, we can help support in that area as well. So there's a lot that goes on, as we know, behind the scenes and in financing. So how do you know when outsourcing, the why, what, when do you use it, and when does it make sense for your organization? Some of the areas, and folks don't think about how outsourcing any function really can be used to help get them strategically where they need to be. But there are times where you have a short-term need. It could be a vacancy due to a resignation, a termination, a retirement, a sudden medical leave, for example, of one of your key staff, and you just need a fill-in. That fill-in can be a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever that looks like. And then you're back and running with your staff. But there are folks out there that can help fill that void so that you can keep doing the things that you need to do. There's ongoing support. A lot of times we see, especially in small organizations, that the need is not a full-time employee. Maybe there's not enough hours that are needed in the finance area, or maybe the cost is prohibitive. A full-time employee with benefits can be very difficult to absorb, especially in a small non-for-profit organization. So maybe what you really need is just to pay for the hours that are needed to get the job done as quickly and efficiently as possible. We work with clients, 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week, 5 hours a month. What does that look like? It can look like so many things. And I think that's the key message here. A lot of times folks are sitting there and they're not really sure where to look for help, and they're not sure that they fit the model of what help is. But I'm here to say any model works. It doesn't matter if there's a need. There are folks out there. There are resources to help you with that need. Project help, special projects, a lot of special project work. You may have full-time staff or staff that takes care of the needs that you have, but all of a sudden a project comes your way, some special report that needs to be filed. A conversion, moving from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. That's a big one. That's happening a lot these days, right? Because of the QuickBooks Desktop support going away. We see a lot of that. Maybe your folks don't have time to address those, so you bring in some outsourced help for that. High turnover, we're seeing a lot of that as well. Just getting folks that stay in this environment, working with the finances, and what does that look like? That's again another area where outsourcing, you have access to this expertise that can just come in and hit the ground running. It can be an internal control. Sometimes in really small organizations, right, we're faced with the fact that you got one person doing it all. And it's always good to have those checks and balances. So having that extra set of eyes from outside, and again, access to resources. Again, our organization is 750 accountants with just focusing on non-for-profit. So that expertise is there. You come up against something you haven't seen before, a special report, a new regulation, and just seeking out resources to get that support to help you through that.
Hey, Jennifer. Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, while we're on that bigger picture, we've got a question from Jennifer in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Just wondering if you have any thoughts or expertise on, do you predict that the new administration's stance on reducing nonprofits, especially those dealing with minority communities, will trickle down to affecting nonprofits in Vermont?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm not sure that I have the answer for what the political environment is going to look like. I mean, I think we can all have our speculations, our concerns, our thoughts. I would not have an answer for you for that, Jennifer. I'm not sure that anyone would know exactly what that's going to look like. I work with so many clients, and especially clients in climate areas that are feeling the stress that you might be feeling in the area particularly that you're working in, which I'm not sure, but I think we won't know until we know. I think the key here is having the folks resources that you need, and that's where our focus is today. Whatever that need may be, if you're faced with some sort of funding or compliance issue, can you find the resources you need to help hurdle that? Because there's strength in numbers, right? So that would be important. Good question. Very big question. So we talked a little bit about small organizations, and there's a lot of things that get blurred because we have few people. We have to maximize the resources that we do have. And so just to sort of set the stage for the type of work that's happening likely in your organizations every day, there's the transactional work, right? That bookkeeping, like who's making sure the bills are paid, recording any money coming in, who's processing the payroll. Then there's that a little bit higher level, that what we call intermediate controller type, closing the month end, making sure that all the accounts are reconciled, that grant invoicing is getting out, that grants reporting is getting out, getting financial statements in front of board members so that they can understand what is my financial standing right now. How much cash do we have? What does it look like in the future? And then you get into that advanced level, more strategic, budgeting, cash forecasting, strategic, grant tracking, policy and procedure work. Those are areas that often get neglected because we need to make sure the bills are paid. We need to make sure the cash is being recorded, right? And so again, where do I go for support if I have someone in place who can make sure my day-to-day things are happening, but there's these bigger picture items that I really feel are lacking or we need. Maybe that's where some of these resources and outsourcing can help work together with your team to address some of those needs as well. Special projects, we talked about, those can look like a lot of things. Just a couple that I want to point out because of the poll results. Board training. Sometimes boards don't have financial expertise on them. It's hard to get board members these days, and it's hard to find necessarily those with the exact fit for whatever need may be there, but we're seeing that a lot in the finance area. And so getting that outside consultants or outsourced resources to come in and just sort of train the board on, this is what a financial report is, and this is what you should be looking for. These are the key areas that will be a focus for you. And if you start to see this, that's a red flag. Like, how do you give the board little bites of information to help them manage their organizations with you as well. And assessments is another big one I like to mention, because here's another one that sort of speaks to that I don't know what I don't know. And an assessment is a great tool for that. And having that outside person come in, that new set of eyes, like someone that doesn't necessarily know the ins and outs in every day, can be so helpful in many ways. And getting that assessment done that just sort of looks at the big picture and then provides you like, you know, a 7 to 10 page report in many instances of like, this is what we saw. And is there areas where we think you should focus on some best practices? And then, you know, you can do that work internally. You can get that work through outsourcing as well. But that assessment is a really good place to start. If you don't know what you don't know, that is a good place to start. So when you know, we all know every day, like, oh, I need this, right? I need this. How do I get access to this? And more importantly, how do I convince my decision makers in my organization that this is a real need and that this would be a real value to our organization? Because maybe I'm the doer every day and I realize I'm wearing 10 hats. And at the end of the day, I barely got to the, you know, 10 things that were on my list. I'm on like number 3. And so I understand in my day-to-day, like I need help, but how do I help others understand the help that I need? And so there's really a 5-step approach we like to take when you maybe are going to your board, or maybe your executive director, or whomever it may be, whoever those decision makers are, but really going to them prepared, like define the problem. Well, what needs to be solved? What is your plan to solve it? What are the benefits of outsourcing, the cost savings, specialized expertise, and efficiency gains? Reducing risk, because we often forget the cost of risk, right? Risk is something that's easy to put on the back burner because it's not a bill in front of you have to pay. It's not a payroll that you've got to fund, but it is something that can be very costly. So looking at that risk management, show successful outsourcing solutions. Do you have other organizations that you partner with or that you know that have used outsourcing and it has really worked for them in other ways? And then address the concerns, right? That risk management, the cost of that, and then share your plans. Like, what are your expected outcomes? What is the budget for this? What does it look like? And talk about those internal benefits and external benefits really quickly, right? The cost-efficient access to specialized expertise, the support to take some of the burden off your folks or provide any gaps, and then that external benefit, securing data, a fresh perspective, just keeping that separation of duties in place for all of the obvious reasons. Okay, so once you get past that, it's like, okay, now we're going to do this thing. We're going to pull these resources in. How do we get the most out of that? Defining your goals, find the right provider, establish clear communication, set milestones, provide clear instructions and feedbacks, and monitor that progress. Build a strong relationship with your consultant. That is super important. Make sure that you have everyone on the same page. And I would stress not only your executive boards, your chief executive folks, but also your staff. If you do have staff and you're wanting to bring in this help, make sure they understand that consultants are there to help build up your folks as well. Sometimes that looks like training. Maybe your staff just needs training in a certain area. So having folks come in with that expertise and training them up, but they're really there to help build up your staff. They're not there to replace them or take over the work that they do. The best clients we work with are those where we come in and can provide that expertise and resources, but train up the folks that you have or help you find staff and bring them in, train them up, and then we get out of the way. We let you do what you know how to do, and we just hope to set you up for success. So sometimes it looks like that. It's an investment in getting where you need to be. So before we go into questions and final, let me just stop share for a second. I'm going to, what I'd like to do is take everyone Of course, I've lost you now. This is typical. Let me find everybody again. Oh, here we go. I would like to take everyone out to the yptc.com website, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is to show you, again, share my screen, and you can help me out, Meg, if I'm sharing the right screen. We should be seeing the website.
Yep, we see the website. That's great.
Excellent, excellent. So when I started the presentation, I mentioned that I would get back to sort of what is the help out there for you. But I'm going to do that quickly, and then I want to show you all the free resources, just free resources that are available to you. This is just one small area, right? It's mine, so it's precious to me, but it's one small area where there are resources. And I want to make you aware of how much access you do have when budgets are tight and there are resources available for free. So yptc.com is our website, and here in the middle we look again at sort of what are the core accounting services available for nonprofits, and here you'll see that same list that I sort of went through really quickly at the beginning. But if you click into learn more about our accounting services, it takes those services and breaks them down a little bit, just so you can have a better understanding of what does that mean? What would help look like in that area? So for example, financial reporting, that is really one of our top objectives. At the end of the day, you need to know what are the finances look like so that you know what resources you have available to pump into your mission. Where do you need to pump the brakes? Where can you turn them on? And how do you provide your board the information they need to help you make those decisions, whether you're an executive director or in another position? And a big area in that we see is in cash flow forecasting, because at the end of the day, it's how much cash do we have in the bank? But it's not always easy to look at that bank statement and know exactly that's not always the cash we have available. And especially when you're in the realm of grant funding, like federal dollars and state dollars, some of those dollars coming in are purpose restricted. And you got to be very cautious about how you spend that cash and what that looks like. So helping to track some of that. Board meeting attendance or training. Sometimes we just show up at board meetings just to present financial statements or help the board understand the financial reports that are in front of them, and train the board to do that themselves in the future. But again, all of these things are here. You can spend time. I want to go back to, there's a click here at the top. Click to learn everything you know about or need to know about nonprofit accounting. This is a really quick and simplified screen of basic nonprofit finance accounting. It will talk to you about what is it, what are the key reports, and I know I'm going really quickly, but just because of time, go here. I really strongly encourage you to go here. It tells you what net assets are. What does that mean? It will give you samples of, I'm going to skip down real quick, like what a financial report looks like and what the different components of it are, right? Like my assets, what does that mean? My liabilities, the net asset, what does that say about the financial health of my business, and et cetera. So this here is just a quick, there's that 990, you got to file. So the basics on that are all built in just here. So it's a good place to start, just to ask yourself, what do I know or what do I not know and I should know? That's a fairly quick read. There are so many buttons here you can push to dive deeper. So as you find something that is relevant to you or you want to learn more about, keep pushing the button. At the top here, there's this button, resources. Again, quickly want to just draw your attention here. There are so many free webinars and podcasts available here, absolutely free to anyone. Click on it. It may ask you to register. There's no cost. You just putting in your name, your business information, perhaps. Most of these are ones that are just recorded, so you can watch them anytime. There's all kinds of topics here that have to do with finances. There are webinars, accounting resources, right? So again, diving into, read more about the chart of accounts, setting that all up, budgeting, what do I need to know? There's the accounting resources, podcast. The other great resource that I like to point out for folks is the Nonprofit Show. If you're not aware of the Nonprofit Show, you'll notice here when I was kind of clicking through in the webinars, YPTC is often a partner. We will get on with the host of Nonprofit Show and we'll present data. Every month we do a live resource for those on a certain topic in the financial area, and the Nonprofit Show will often bring us on their show to help. So again, free resource. Google it, Nonprofit Show. They have so many out there. Look for the topic that might be of help to you specifically, but use those free resources. And that, Meg, I think I just want to bring up one last thing. Where am I sharing? Am I lost?
I can still see your screen up, so you should be able to, if you can look at that, you're on the webinars.
Oh, okay. Is everyone seeing the screen?
Oh yeah, questions, comments. And then I also wanted to leave room too to turn it over to Melanie, because I think one of the things that Sheila brought up to me was that oftentimes they'll help come in, you know, YPTC will come in and get you set up, but then you may want to establish a relationship with like a local bookkeeper for your everyday, day-to-day accounting needs. And they often develop relationships and referrals to that kind of local bookkeeper. So that is what Melanie does. Do we want to do questions for Sheila first, or have Melanie go and then take questions? Does anyone have a question before we move on? You can feel free to just unmute or raise your hand, and then we can.
I actually have a
take
question for Sheila in case anybody
go.
else.
You go and kick it off. Go ahead, Melanie.
So hi everybody, I'm Melanie Lopez. Just to introduce myself a little bit, but my question for Sheila is, you know, you do all these things and YPTC does all of these things. Have you ever had to say no to a client, and why? You know, was it something out of your bounds, you know, something not really accounting related? I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So we heavily focus on the accounting and finance, and again, uniquely with non-for-profits. So we do have parameters if we're working with folks and they have HR questions, for example. We have recommended consultants or firms that help with human resources, and we will provide those recommendations. Same with, like Meg said, with working with bookkeeping firms like yourself, Mel, and that sort of thing. We will present any and every opportunity, whether you're looking for an audit firm, HR resources, someone to file your taxes. We don't file taxes. We help clients get to all the information to the accounting for tax folks to actually file the tax forms for you. We do 1099s, but we do not do the 990. We just provide, get all the data, give all the information. So there are things, and it's a great question, where we would absolutely say we have other resources that we can recommend that you use. And that can be really critically important.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, wow, this is a whole list, you know, if they say no to anybody, I'm sure it's pretty rare. But that's really good to know.
Yeah,
I want to
try not to say no, but sometimes, you know, no is the right answer, right? Sometimes it's like a client may share their need and we have a resource that we think would better be suited for them, whether it's a cost issue or anything, you know, someone special. Like we really are team players. We are here. This is why I love the work that I do every day, working with nonprofits, is because we're really here to support their missions and help them put as much cash and funding to their mission and not the back office stuff. So like if you can do that and use resources in a way, like if you know you've got specialized accountants that this is all they do, so they can do it really fast, right? Like we can be very efficient because we do this every day with so many thousands. We have over 2,000 not-for-profit clients. We see stuff that maybe your folks don't see every day just because we have it coming at us from all different places. And I think sometimes the answer is, we are not the answer, but we know who may be, and that's how we can help you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. I think we all really appreciated your presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do now, if there's no other questions.
Bobby,
and-
did you have a question? I just saw Bobby
ahead.
came on camera, so I wondered if she had a question.
Yeah, I
ahead.
did. But probably both for both Sheila and Melanie. You know, one of the questions, I actually work at BDCC. One of the main questions that we get from nonprofits and just small entities is access to CPAs and tax providers. So I'm curious, Sheila, if your entity has affiliation with accountants and CPAs that you recommend, or is it you just have a list that you send out and say, here's a bunch that are in your local area or, you know, countrywide that might be able to provide this? How do you navigate that? Because it's becoming quite a problem.
Yeah, it's a great question, Bobby. So we don't affiliate with anyone. We sort of stand alone in most regards, but we absolutely work so closely with so many auditors and tax because we are doing all of that work for our clients to prep them for audit. And oftentimes we are getting them through their audit. So we work one-on-one with so many audit firms and tax firms that we do have quite the list. So you're right, it's like a recommendation list. And it fits the needs that our clients are looking for. Like if they're small or they have a small budget for these things, but they just need to get them done, we sort of know which firms are best to work with, and we'll just give them a list of, you know, here are 5 or 10 in your area, or who could work with you in your cost point, like that makes sense for you, or the expertise that you need. So we have so many relationships. I like to call them that. They're definitely not official affiliations, but we have so many relationships because all of our clients need audits or tax work done, and vice versa, right? We'll have auditors and tax folks that are working with clients that are like, ooh, they could really use your services. They need some help getting some things in order, and then they'll call us. So it is sort of a two-way street.
Yeah, and I'd like to just throw in, you know, I think it depends on how large the non-for-profit is. If it's a fairly small non-for-profit, you know, such as Wilmington Works or, you know, the Old School, the actual amount of transaction is small enough that you could train somebody to do the 990. You know, if they could see the last 990. I don't know if you've ever done that, Sheila, but you know, I've seen it where it's not a lot of activity, so you could file a 990 and hopefully get to the 990 postcard depending on what you make and your revenue. But I have seen people like go to an accountant, kind of learn how to do it, and then continue forward. So I've helped people do that a little bit. It has to be a very small entity though for me to feel comfortable doing that.
So Melanie, why don't you just give us your perspective as a local bookkeeper who might be the type of person that might pick up where your part-time controller leaves off, or and vice versa, kind of do that handoff. So go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing bookkeeping for the past 6 years. I was most recently the accountant at the Hermitage Club for about 1.5 years, right when the members bought it in 2021. And then I left after 1.5 years to just start my own bookkeeping because I felt like there's a lot of local businesses and yes, a few non-for-profits who needed that sort of administrative assistance and accounting assistance. And I felt like with my experience, I could kind of build off of that, and I have. And I'm also going to school to get my associates in accounting so I can have a piece of paper that says I've done it. But yeah, I see a lot of things. Specifically, like I said, I do stuff for the Old School. I help with Wilmington Works. I have another couple of non-for-profits that I work with on a consulting basis. And you know, Sheila mentioned sort of levels of help that and support that they provide. So I'm more of a transactional and intermediate level helper. I'm going to help you with, you know, all your basic bookkeeping things such as deposits, checks, your monthly reporting, and your reconciliations. But there's other stuff that bookkeepers such as myself can help people with. So some of that could be sort of like maybe looking at different softwares you're using or different procedures you're using and making it a little bit more cost effective for you. So for instance, for Wilmington Works, right, we went to a different QuickBooks Online setup through TechSoup, and we ended up saving like $600 a year. So there's little resources like that that you can find that do save the non-for-profit money and then hopefully help pay for your bookkeeping needs, right? And then also kind of looking at integrations. So I think most recently, like Amazon integrated with QuickBooks Online, and let's say you're not-for-profit purchases 1,000 things from Amazon, then, you know, hopefully it's going to give you some time savings and some a little bit more time and money to work on stuff that you need to work on. So that sort of thing we can help out with. And then also sort of like Sheila said, training. I do a lot of QuickBooks training, QuickBooks Online training specifically, and also other training with other software. You know, if you need a little bit of just Excel training for your board, and maybe that Excel training helps you to put together your appeal list a little quicker every year. So that's what help I do. And then also, sorry, doing some custom reports. So using different softwares, like if you need a custom report for a specific grant, you know, and you want to know how to enter transactions so that comes out correctly on the report, or anything like that, or maybe you have a specific program that you like to report on every year, then I can show people how to put those sort of reports together. And you know, entering in budgets, that's also another feature on QuickBooks that I'm pretty familiar with and have done quite a bit. And using that report to report every month on like where you are with your budget. So that sort of thing. And then also creating some SOPs so that, you know, if something happens to me and you have no idea how to do something on your QuickBooks, you can have, you know, a small library you can go to and say, oh, this is how I put in my budget. This is how I report all my checks, and this is how I reconcile my account. So all the little basic things that bookkeepers need to get done, and maybe treasurers of boards of non-for-profits need to get done. That's a lot of what I do. And it can be as simple as, you know, hey, I just need a little bit of help per month, or I need help on a weekly basis every couple of hours, you know, to understand how I do this, or to just take on a piece of that reporting or a piece of that, you know, transactional input that non-for-profits need. And I know we talked a little bit, Meg, you wanted me to kind of say, okay, if I'm talking to somebody and I'm consulting with them, you know, and they want to meet, what do I need to have them put together for me? Okay, and Sheila kind of spoke about this, but one thing is like, yes, assess your needs, kind of what's stopping you? What do you feel like you're a little stuck on, or maybe your board needs a little bit of help on? So maybe a little bit of definition of what you think you need, and about how much time you think you need me to spend on it, as well as a budget. And that sounds really specific, but it doesn't have to be that specific. You can come to somebody and say, you know, we really need to understand how we're taking in this grant money, where that money is going, and we need a clear report every so often for that. And maybe you don't know how long that's going to take me, you know, to do, but I can give you an idea. Okay, well, that's fairly simple. Maybe it'll take an hour to put together now, and I can show you how to run it every so often, or automatically get it emailed to you every month. So I don't really expect a lot of, I guess, specific needs to come to me when somebody needs something, but I'd like people to kind of talk about it within their board and have an idea of what they feel they could change about, you know, their reporting or whatever financial needs they might need. And I also like to tell people to kind of take a blank slate look at, you know, how you're handling things with your board, and your finances, because I find a lot of people, like, you get stuck doing specific things because you've done them for so long and you don't question why you're doing them. So I think that's a really good idea for boards to take a look at that. Like, if you have a specific report that you're always reporting on, why is it that report? You know, do you know why you're reporting on? Is it not just like your income and expenses? Maybe you need actually more specific reporting to talk about specific programs and services you have. So yeah, that's what I do, and I love to do it. And I hope you guys have some questions.
Yeah, so why don't we open it up? Do people have specific questions? And then also I'm going to drop some more resources into the chat. I did drop links, the links that Sheila was sharing are dropped in the chat. And then I also I'm going to share some other links that we have. So, you know, people are always asking us TA providers. So we do, BDCC does maintain a list of those, and hopefully Mel, you're on it. If not, you go sign yourself up to get on it. This sort of people where you could, that has some lists of local people that are available. And then we also have some other resources that we've archived. I'm just going to put our general website for the Southern Vermont Economy Project up, but through that, if you click the Knowledge Bites link, there's archived resources on there too. You could just sort of scroll through the topics and just see if there's anything that's interesting. There's one about nonprofit board development that's relevant probably to this audience that I always send people to. But let's open it up. Financial questions, anything you want to ask. It can be specific. And also we'll share Sheila's, we're going to share this recording, and we'll share Sheila's contact as well. And I can share Melanie's contact as well, if that's okay, Melanie, just like people have e-resources. Melanie is local to the Wilmington area, so you know how far afield you go and how much time you have, but just to offer those as resources. So any questions that people have specifically? Problems you've run into?
Sorry, I have one more question for Sheila, but you know, maybe Rachel can speak to this too, or other people who deal with non-for-profits. Recently I've had a question about auditing, you know, providing some auditing to financial transactions for the year. So is there, you know, for Sheila, do you guys actually do any auditing of financial, or do you refer to a CPA specifically? So I know that's not really taxes, but it is an accounting, you know, it's an accounting procedure that's done for a lot of non-for-profits.
Yeah, we specifically do not do attestation services, so we will not do audits themselves. We will do everything the client needs to prepare for the audit. You know, we will work with the auditors, but we do not issue audit reports. I guess that's the key here, is we do not do the audit function. So although many of our staffs are CPAs, we do not conduct audit or reviews or any of those attestations and issue reports. We just help clients get there where they need to be. And I also just wanted to add, I think I didn't say this earlier, but when you were just talking, Meg, with folks, and I don't know where everyone is located that's on, but I personally sit in Danville, Vermont, but we have other YPTCers, we call ourselves, your part-time controller, that are all around the state staff. So sometimes we serve our clients, you know, on site. Sometimes we do our work remotely. So it really just depends what the need is. And I did fail to mention that, because sometimes folks are wondering, how do I access a national firm, right? But we're a national firm, but we sit everywhere and we work hybrid, on-site, remote, like we make it work. So there are folks that work at YPTC that are down in the Southern Vermont area. That's just, you know, but me personally, I sit in Danville, Vermont, for context.
So I have a question. So how much, when people are thinking about budgeting, is there a way for people to find out, like, well, what does this cost? And is the best thing just to reach out and say, here are our needs, what would that cost? Or is there kind of way to look and see what, I mean, I guess it's so, people's needs are so varied. So I think it would be probably hard to generalize, but how would people find out what they should budget for this? So when they take it to their board, they can give a number and sort of show this is what it would cost, but this is our likely cost savings in terms of staff time or whatever for that. So that's for either for both of you. Maybe Sheila start and then Melanie pick up.
Sure. Mel sort of alluded to this a little bit, but I mean, it really starts with bringing us the ask, the need, and then we work on an hourly rate. So we are not project focused and we're not fixed fee. We don't like that approach. We definitely want you to pay for the services that you use. So we will look at your ask and say, okay, it will take us this amount of time to do that. And then we will quote you like that time times the hourly rate. And our hourly rates vary depending on the type of work. So that's where the variances come in mostly. So, if the level of work is needed at the transactional, that's a different price point than at those high level, strategic executive type analysis work. So as you would expect with anything, it varies, but we do charge hourly. So the first step really is, either reaching out directly to me or going to our website, which you have the link. We have what we call a hello team. Our hello team sets up a quick chat with you, and they can give you a pretty good ballpark right away what the cost might be, so you would know whether it's something that makes sense for you, or if not, you can engage in the conversation that says, well, do you have other options, and what might those be, what those look like? And again, we have those recommendations.
Okay, and Melanie, how do you usually work with a client who has a question?
Yeah, fairly similarly. I think the first thing you said, if you're sending an email with a sort of an idea of what you need, and let's say you're saying, I need some help budgeting, right? Yes, it's fairly ambiguous. I like to receive some sort of information about it and then plan to meet at some point, because whether it's via Zoom or in person, I think it's really important to kind of take a little bit of a look at the books before you can say, okay, this is how long it's going to take. Because there's some companies and non-for-profits who have very few accounts in their chart of accounts. There's some that have so many, and they need you to kind of go through and do a deep dive and maybe help them put the budget together, and then input the budget, and then report on their budget versus actuals every monthly. So, it varies a lot. So I do think it's important to meet for a little while and do a brief consultation. Much like Sheila, I do hourly. I don't do any fee or anything, though I have to say for some small businesses, I'm thinking about implementing a monthly fee so I don't have to write out the invoice, because that takes so long. But yeah, I think it's very similar. If you come with a general idea of what you need, I think it's important for boards to kind of think a little bit more of how often do I need it too, not just what do I need? Do I need this monthly, or is it where you need to train somebody to be able to get that report monthly once you set it up? So yes, come to your consultant with that information, but also talk about it amongst your board. How can somebody take this over, and are they willing to do this piece of it if we get a piece taken care of, or if we get a piece of this, this consultant to come in and do a little piece of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully this is helpful. I put some resources, another resource in the chat. We have our business team is running an event with one part happening tonight in person and a second part happening tomorrow. But they did, this is for businesses, but she also said that some of the needs might overlap to nonprofits, and there's a second virtual presentation tomorrow. So feel free to jump in on that and access any of these resources. We're going to archive this recording and put that up on our website so you can share it with board members. And feel free to reach out anytime to the Southern Vermont Economy Project we'll email out everybody the recording and the links and the materials. So you can respond to that if you have further questions, and we can connect you to resources. Again, we're oftentimes that connector. So we don't solve your problem, but we might know who can, or we might know someone who has had a similar problem that you could talk to, and they can talk to you about how they solved it. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Sheila and Melanie, for coming on today. We really appreciate your expertise, and hopefully everyone feels a little more able to access the help they need with their nonprofit finances based on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.